Hello and welcome to Project Art Now. Wonderful news! Takano Masamune is back and she is here to help me out on a highly important topic: how to fight the lack of motivation. Alas, motivation is not eternal, and so Takano and I came with 10 tips to help you when motivation is running low. Before we start, it's time to announce the manga of the week, Noragami. I hope you enjoyed this Bicha Mountain fan art. Remember, you can get Noragami via the link in the description. While you're there, check out my store where you can get a great variety of products with cool art designs. Also, get a copy of the project Sare. If fantasy and sci-fi are your jam, I'm sure you'll love it. However, if you are in the mood for some LGBTQ plus romance, then you want to read Takano's novels. Finally, don't forget to follow both of us on our social media. Every link down in the description box. Now, for the first tip on how to fight lack of motivation, here is Takano.
So, I've been an author for 10 months now, and I have been consistently writing at least one, if not two, new novels every single month. And to do that, it's not really easy, but if you have the motivation to do it, if you have the persistence to do it, you'll be able to write even more than I do. Just joking, nobody can write more than I do. Anyways, so my first tip for you would be to write down every single idea that you've ever had. It doesn't matter how small or how insignificant it may seem to you at the moment, you just have to write it down. And it doesn't matter where you write it down. You can write down on your notepad, on your notebook, in school. You can write it on your hand for all I care. You can write it on the walls of your bedroom for all it matters. But write down every single insignificant idea that you had in your entire life throughout your day, and then when you're really stuck on a part and you just don't know how to continue it, you can go back, review your notes, and figure something out.
That was brilliant. Now, here's my first tip. Work on your discipline. That means doing what you need to do even if you're not feeling it. Ain't easy, but worth it. You see, discipline will be there when motivation fails. But you might fairly ask, how exactly am I going to work on my discipline? Well, do not let a single day pass without you doing what you need to do. Whether it's writing, editing, research, or anything else. Just do it. Now, let's hear Takano's second tip.
And tip number 2. If you're just staring at the screen, you have absolutely no idea what to write, you can't even begin the chapter, then I just suggest you do something else. Anything else. You can go listen to music, you can go talk with your friends, if you have any. You can go talk with your dog, you can go for a walk. Just do anything else. Watch a movie, run a marathon, cook something, eat something. Do anything else besides looking at that empty screen, because that's only gonna make you lose motivation more than you already have. And by doing so, the idea is to get your mind off of the idea of writing. Just do something else until an idea pops into your head. You don't need to force your ideas out of you. If you don't have any ideas, you're probably burnt out. So there's no point in trying to get something where nothing exists, you know? So the best way, that's the second tip, is just to wait for inspiration. I don't really like to say the word wait because you're not really waiting, you're doing other things that in the process might inspire you. And that would be my second tip, just do something else.
Here is my second tip. It's what I like to call the Rock Lee style. For those of you who don't know who is Rock Lee, well, in short, he's a genius of hard work. When almost everyone told him he will never be a ninja because he cannot perform jutsus, he ignored the naysayers, ignored his limitations, then went and worked harder than everyone else on what he could do, and managed to become one of the best ninjas around. So, if you have any limitations, do not worry about them, but focus and work hard on what you can do. Takano, please give us your number 3.
My third tip, which, although it's the third one, it might actually be the most important one, and I would say this to any writer, author, artist, it doesn't really matter what you are, but do not, and I will repeat this, do not strive for perfection, but strive for improvement. Now, I have no idea where I heard that from, it just popped into my head when I was writing down things for this video. But don't strive for perfection, strive for improvement. And that would suggest that you do not need to write everything down perfectly from the first time. You don't need to think so hard about each sentence and each word that you make. The thing is that the harder you think about something, the higher the chance it is that you're just going to give up on doing it. So it might not be the best advice to many of you, especially if you are an overthinker, but you have to be a bit more impulsive with these kinds of things. You have to go do it and then allow people to criticize you for it. Now, that might sound awful to a lot of you, and I know it's not what you want to hear, but just go and do something. Like, write something and give it to someone else and tell them to judge you however they want to. Like, when I was writing Beyond the Night, I didn't even consider other people's opinions while I was writing. I just wrote it down very first try, wrote it down, and, like, just put it out there. And it was much later that I got my first, like, complaints about, well, but that doesn't really make sense, or that part here, we never really figured out what happened there, and things like that. But it happened much later. And now I'm already 13 novels in, so I can't really go back and fix my previous mistakes, and I'm not planning to, because the mistakes that I have made me the person that I am today. Like, my latest novel is much, much better, and I know it is. It's much better than the very first novel that I have written 10 months ago. So it's because I have been consistently writing and writing and writing more until, I've reached this point where now I really love the things that I write. I really love every single one of my books as well. But that's the thing. If I was trying to make my very first novel perfect, I would still be writing it. I would still be writing my very first novel, and I wouldn't have gotten anywhere if I was striving for perfection. You can go check out Beyond the Night. Shameless self-promotion here. You can go check out Beyond the Night and compare it to my very latest novel, Soul for Sale, and you can really see how much I've improved with my wording, with grammatical errors as well. Before, I used to repeat a lot of the same words. I don't say I don't repeat words at the moment. I repeat words only when it's necessary, when I want to put emphasis on something. And it's not so much as when I was writing Beyond the Night, when I was like simply repeating words because I didn't know what to write there. So, like, you can go and make a comparison with the two novels, and you will obviously see which one's better. Both in my wording and my terms, I've learned a lot of new words while I was writing, like words that I didn't know before. I've watched advice from other authors who are, talking about how to replace different words, how to say the same phrase in a different way, and so on and so forth. And the thing is that you can only really learn while in motion. Like, if you don't ever start writing that first draft, that first chapter, and put it out there, like, you can never really get the criticism and feedback that you actually need. And why it's so important for you to put it out there for other people to see, other people that's not you. Because as an author and as an artist and as anything really in this world, when you look too much at your own work, you start getting used to it at one level or another. And by getting used to your own work, you're starting to see all the tiny little insignificant flaws that nobody else cares about and nobody else does, like, even notices in your work. And that's the thing. You cannot be overly critical of yourself, especially when you're doing creative work. You cannot be critical of yourself. This is not something that's solely focused on logic or reason. It's about, like, creative work is more about emotions than anything else. So what you're doing when writing is trying to portray an emotion or trying to invoke an emotion in your reader. And Even if your writing is messy at first, you can improve with time. So you shouldn't really try to make everything perfect and splendid and absolutely phenomenal from the very first time, because it's not going to happen. It's simply not going to happen. Like, nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, even if you were God himself, you would not be able to write or do any piece of artwork or anything really perfectly from the very first time. Just nobody does it. And perfection is different for everyone. What you think might be perfect might be complete and utter garbage to somebody else. And what you think is bad writing, or it's not really correct to say it in this way, or it's not really easy to understand, or blah blah blah, it might be something that someone else really loves. So don't be afraid to just write it down and get it out there. So that's my third tip for you guys. Don't strive for perfection, but strive for improvement. Because each time you write something else, you're getting better and better at it.
My third tip is short but powerful. Go back and read your own stories. Let an initial conflict hook you once again like it did when you first wrote it. Let the shivers of that first kiss scene you wrote get to you again. Let the excitement of that first fight scene take you once again. In other words, fall in love with your own story all over again. Takano, it is time to hear your fourth tip.
For my fourth tip, I would like to suggest to everyone that's watching this to just take a deep breath, look me in the eyes, and tell me why you started writing in the first place. Because the thing is, if you cannot find motivation within yourself, and motivation is something that you can easily run out of, it's not really the most important thing. Persistence is the most important thing. And how do you get persistence? When you have a very clear end goal in mind, when you have something that you want to achieve, and you know that by doing this consistently, you are going to get to your end result. That's when you never run out of the will to do it, because it's more about willpower than it is about motivation, really. You just have to continue doing it no matter how many times you fail and falter. I suggest you write every single day. It's about getting used to writing every single day. Like, once you get that into your system, you start on a consistent and daily basis, begin writing and improving. That's where I feel you're going to get the most out of, once you start doing it on a consistent basis. And one more thing, it's when you start thinking of it as more than a hobby. Because I feel like a lot of people, they like to, how can I say this? They like to disregard how much hard work it is, or they want to say, oh no, this is just a hobby of mine. I'm not taking this very seriously. And a lot of people like to do that because it kind of takes away responsibility from you. Like, if you say it's just a hobby, you don't really need to try that hard, and you don't need to take it so seriously, obviously. And obviously, if you that's not what you want to do with your life, it's totally fine to think of it as a hobby. But if this is something that you really, really want to do, if it's something that you want to make into your career, then more than anything, you have to take it seriously. You have to think of it as work. But it's not the type of work that you do 9 to 5. It's creative. So you get to pick your own hours and choose when you want to write and what exactly you want to write about. This might also be a tip for you guys, but don't allow anyone, be it your readers or anyone else, influence the type of things that you write about. Because if you start writing things that other people will like, but you don't like writing about, then the quality of your work, I guarantee it's going to be way below average. Because you have to want to write what you're writing about. You have to have that desire. You have to have that kind of drive to make something that you yourself would enjoy reading about. And in the end, it's all about you, really. If you enjoy what you have put on those pages, then the correct readers will find it and they will enjoy it as well. You don't need to try and please people. You don't need to write in a particular genre because, like, let's say fantasy is a very popular genre, so is romance. But if that's not your genre, if that's not what you want to write in, then you don't need to do it. You can go and write a thriller, a psychological horror. You can write anything you want to, an adventure, action, whatever it is, even if they're not so popular. And yeah, I think that really helps because you can only really be motivated to move forward if what you do is enjoyable. If you like what you do, then you're not really ever gonna run out of willpower nor motivation to continue doing it, because it's no longer something it should never be something you're forcing yourself to do. Because if you are forcing yourself and if you dislike what you do, then what's the point of really doing it? I think people should enjoy the things that they do, like whether that would be artwork, writing, cosplaying. I do a lot of cosplays. I'm not very good at it, but I do it. And I do it because it's enjoyable. And that's the point. Whatever you want to do, you should do it because you want to do it. Don't do it because you think you're gonna be a billionaire because you wrote this one book. And while I'm at it, I want to say this. Writing one book is most definitely not gonna make you famous. I don't believe there has been an author that has become famous with a single book, like with one book and no other ones. So if you have finished writing your first book, it's okay to be excited. It's okay to, to recommend it to everyone and be like, oh, I just got out my new book. It's great. But you should start writing the next one, because one book is not going to make your career. And you're hearing this from a 20-year-old smut novelist. I don't know how valuable that information is to you guys, but I'm gonna give it anyways, that information. And yeah, I would encourage you to just write more and more. Like, if you think the first thing you've written is garbage, then go and start writing the next one.
For my fourth tip, I want to suggest you focus on your own path. When you see others succeed while you seem to be stuck, don't worry about it. Keep on your own path. Remember, their success is not your failure. Besides, you don't know how hard they work to get there. And even if there's someone out there who somehow managed to get great success with minimum effort, so what? That takes nothing away from you. As long as you keep on your own path, you'll get your own success. Let's hear Takano's fifth and final tip.
And probably my fifth and last tip that I'm going to give you guys for today is, it kind of correlates with the third and fourth tip that I gave you. But after you put your work out there, look at the feedback. And there are two moments here. One of them would be the negative comments, and another would be the positive, encouraging comments. I would suggest you focus on those positive and encouraging comments. In the first couple of if you don't really have the mental state for it, I feel like you shouldn't even read the negative comments at first. You see, I'm very thick-skinned, my mother always told me, and I don't really care about, reading negative comments. And if it's genuine criticism, I can read it and take it for what it is. But I know a lot of people just can't process it, and they'll start thinking about that one single negative comment, even if they're flooded with 1,000 of positive comments. So what I would like to suggest is just directly avoid the negative comments. Because a lot of negative comments are not constructive criticism. They're just people that just want to bash at your work for no apparent reason. It really is that people just sometimes want to be mean. Like, you shouldn't try to find logic in these kinds of things. It's just, they just feel like it. They might have had a bad day. They just want to be mean. So don't really even think about that. What you should focus on is the positive comments, the positive encouraging comments. And for me, personally, I've had a lot of people that really supported my work, and like maybe 3, 5 people that had some complaints about it. Well, like at least 2 or 3 of those 5 people, their complaints were the fact that they had to pay to read a work that I spent months making. So that's kind of silly, regardless. But the flood of positive comments from paying readers, like the thing is, I feel a lot of authors want to put their work out there for free, thinking that people are going to love and appreciate their work and, be willing to buy it. And that is true to an extent. But I feel like you should put a price tag to your work. You have spent your mental capacity, your energy, like those were sleepless nights, way over the allowed caffeine intake. You've spent hours, days, probably even months on creating that book, or maybe that piece of artwork, or maybe that song, or maybe that cosplay. It doesn't really matter what it is. You've spent time to do that. You deserve to get rewarded for your work. So what I suggest is mostly give people a sample of what you do and then ask them to pay to read the rest. Like maybe give the first 10 chapters of your book out for free and then suggest that they could buy the whole thing for a set price, whatever price you decide. And I think that works really, 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 really well, for the simple reason that in the first 10 chapters, people can already create an image of the book that you're writing. They can already imagine, what kind of scenario it is, and they have a pretty clear idea of whether or not they want to continue reading it or not. And do not be discouraged if someone drops your novel or book or whatever after the first 10 chapters, because someone else is going to come along and they're going to enjoy it. That would be my 5th suggestion, my 5th tip for combating a lack of motivation, and it would be to, read the positive comments that people have given for your novel. And this doesn't work for all authors, but specifically in authors that work with web novels, that do web novels, not really the traditional authors that they spend time writing their book, they promote it, and it goes into stores and whatnot, and you wait for people to buy it. I'm speaking specifically about people that write solely online. They don't have a published book, and they just love writing and want to write and do it online, because that's what I do basically. For those type of authors, I would just suggest because getting that feedback is very important. And my 5th tip might be very specific for these type of people that write online novels, but read those positive comments and read them again and again and again, because readers really, really appreciate the work you do. If they like something, they're gonna tell you. Well, maybe not everyone's gonna tell you, but if they like it, and if they have taken time out of their day to write you a comment, that means so much more than someone that just read through it and didn't say anything. And I feel like you should be encouraged by those types of people, because even if you get one loyal reader, it's way more than a lot of people could get, you know. And yeah, I guess I've been talking for a tad bit too much, and I don't want to make the video far too long. Thanks again to Project Art Now for allowing me to be on the channel once again. It's always exciting to be here. I'm really hoping that this time the audio quality is going to be much better than it was the last time, because I'm honestly embarrassed if it's my fault that the audio quality was so bad. I am so sorry for that, and I hope you forgive me. And yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to say.
Now for my final tip, go and do whatever it is that got you into writing in the first place. For example, for me it was reading fairy tales, particularly the grim ones. For you might be playing video game or watching a TV show, whatever it is, go and do it. Let it ignite the writing spark on you once again. Well, there you go, 10 tips on how to find lack of motivation. Hope you find this helpful. Speaking of which, thank you again Takano for your super valuable help on the making of this video. Hope you all had a good time and wish you all come back next week. Bye bye.